Next to me stands Tomas Gomez, who is director from IIT. IIT is a part of Comillas University, which is really one of the hubs in Europe in terms of research on electricity markets. I was fortunate to be a student of Tomas just a couple of years ago. So Tomas, we were talking about DSOs and their challenges. We have electrification going on at, let's say, the edge of the grid. There's transport getting electrified, heating also. So that means probably we'll have to invest a lot in the network. But you were talking about alternatives. One of those alternatives was the procurement of flexibility by the DSO. So we don't really see that happening at the moment, not yet. So what do you think are the main barriers to let this really thrive?
Okay, thank you. I would say that the flexibility for trying to save investments in the network should be procured by distribution system operators, which are the companies, they are regulated companies that they have to invest in the network. But traditionally, this has not been the case because they have been using long-term planning and they decided to invest in transformers and in lines. And because of that, there is not a framework for doing that. There is not the regulatory framework. There are regulated entities. Therefore, the main challenges for regulators and for policymakers is already in the legislation for the European Clean Energy Packages. There are provisions for that, but the implementation of those provisions through tools, for instance, the definition of products, the definition of services. Also, you know that in the distribution network there are many resources. How to pool all these resources in order to try to avoid these investments, and how much to pay to those resources using markets, using long-term contracts, different possibilities. This is a main challenge. Therefore, I would say that is regulation in this case what should move forward, and in that case, we will have that implementation in the future.
So first fix the regulatory frame. We go from CapEx to maybe something which appreciates also OpEx. And then, how to design these markets in reality. Right. So you also said there is market-based procurement. Maybe that's something for the near future. Mm-hmm. There are also other tools to unlock flexibility. And you were talking about network tariffs. Then there was another talk also about smart connection agreements.
Right.
These three tools, there are more tools. Do they compete? Do they interact? How to deal? We need them all three. We need to make a choice.
Right. It's true that what we are trying to get from the consumers and from the distributor resources, like storage in the future, is this flexibility. And in that case, the reaction of those consumers are going to be based on some benefits for them. Therefore, the way of they get the benefits could be through participation in markets, but should be also reacting to tariffs. But for that, the tariffs today are flat. They don't change from time to time, and they don't understand that the tariffs should price the network when the network is more used. Therefore, what we need to do is to change the tariff system and to go through a more cost-reflective prices for using the networks. Other aspect is when the consumers or the generators are connecting to the network, they ask for firm assets, means that they cannot be curtailed. But today they are new contracts with flexibility and they are going to be compensated for that. And finally, these local markets are running day by day, and in that case they can put bids for providing flexibility. All these three components are in some way competing each other because there are trade-offs. In the end, what the provider of flexibility is going to look for is the maximum benefits for them. But the challenges for designing or changing tariffs are very different from doing local markets. I would say that probably tariffs and connection contracts are more kind of regulatory based on affecting a lot of consumers, while in the case of local markets, maybe are going to be much more based on voluntary participation, and it's going to be more for specific agents, aggregators. But it's true that in the end, everything is contributing to the same objective, which is saving money in the end, in the long term, for getting resources more in the short term. Yeah. Therefore, how to make priorities on the decisions, but it's actually as it's a national level, there are going to be national regulators deciding on that. But it's true that this is an open window for what is the role of harmonization at the European level, because the mandates are coming from the new directive and the new regulation. Therefore, we will see how this develops in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. This was very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.